Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Okay, we'll start with an introduction. Dear students, welcome back to the second talk of the Impact Lecture Series. In this session, we are going to explore innovation and its repercussions in our society. This session is handled by Dr. Bijoy A Jose, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science, CUSAT. He has got a vibrant exposure to both industry as well as academics, and no wonder why he is a successful academician. He took his BTech from School of Engineering CUSAT and MS from State University of New York, PhD from Virginia Tech in 2011. He worked at Intel Corporation in California for a few years before joining academia. He is the recipient of Early Career Research Award from Department of Science and Technology, Government of India in 2016. He is the principal investigator to multiple funded projects from DST, IEEE, and CII. He is currently the secretary of IEEE Kerala section. Also, he's a principal consultant of many companies, Pumex, Infotech, Technolicell, and many more. His research focuses on various topics such as embedded systems, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, virtualization, machine learning, video and image processing, etc. Sir, I welcome you to handle this session.
Thank you. Thank you for the detailed introduction as well. Let me share the screen and begin. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. So the topic I've chosen for today, because it is related to innovation, is just to explain what are the terms innovation and disruption, right? So I'll sort of talk about what makes somebody an innovator also, along with these two topics, and just my background. I was working in Cognizant initially, and then moved to US for around 10 years, studied and worked there. After that, I've come back to teach in first Department of Electronics and later now Computer Science. So this is topics that I'm going to cover, right? So obviously, since it is mostly a student audience, I'm sort of ending it with, so what should I do? I being a student, not my, me personally, right? So let me begin. So the introduction, we are just looking at what era we are living in, right? So you have your history books talking about steam engines and invention of the wheel and so on, but invention is not a linear curve, right? What is a linear curve? You have a straight line, right? Invention is not invention, I would say human progress. It is more of an exponential curve, right? And recently we can sort of divide it as advancement of computers, pre-internet, after internet, because these are things which have changed our lives, right? I think post covid, or we don't even have to say how internet is really affecting lives of everybody in the world, right? People who are not really using internet have been forced to use internet to get services, right? So when internet came, that is this first block, it was called internet of content. So the reason it was called internet of content is because people were mostly using internet for accessing content. So what is content? It could be email, it could be news, right? It could be maybe playing some videos, or looking at pictures, scrolling through that, right? So someone will go put up a website, he'll put a lot of stuff there, someone else will go and access it, right? So that is the end of it. So you might be familiar with sites like Sifi.com, Rediff.com. Those were, initially in India very popular, right? They were the early content creators. So they had Sifi had an email, Rediff had an email. Eventually, the global players came along, and now we are all into Gmail and Yahoo Mail and so on. From internet of content, we have moved to internet of services. So what is services? I think the easiest way to explain it is really Amazon, right? So you have the poster child of e-commerce, which sells almost everything, right? Right from vegetables to buying big products, right? Ordering, you can order TV there, anything you really want. So people who had this vision when it was internet of content, they predicted that there will be an internet of services, right? And they created buy.coms and ebay.coms and amazon.coms of the world. Eventually, you had internet reviews, right? People posting opinion, people posting things on discussion boards. There were forums where people were exchanging ideas. So someone came up with, here is a better way of exchanging ideas, right? Why not connect my friends and start a discussion, right? So that is where Facebook came along in the Western world. There were Orkut and other Hi-Fi and Friendster and other social media apps which were there for a while and sort of waned away. Now we are at Instagram or Snapchat or anything you guys are using. After that, what is next is what entrepreneurs are looking at, right? Because every such era is really a new business that is starting. So people might say it is internet of things, which means humans are taken out from the conversation. Machines will talk to each other for us, right? This guy is coming, why don't you unlock the door, why don't you switch on the light, right? So these are commonplace things that you might do on a project in college, right? Home automation and things like that. But even more advanced stuff in terms of how your phone behaves or laptop behaves could be automated, right? So we are going to talk about what are the other things, how someone becomes an innovator, because how to make yourself an innovator, right? For that, one of the most important things is really being an expert. So let me pause there with the introduction and come back with a question. And just a second. So I want to ask, probably you can respond in chat. Um, why did you join your course? Let me see if anybody can give a answer, right? So you can just type, okay, I like this particular field, right? So whoever likes that can type that. I know people don't like to respond. You would like to hear lectures or just be in lectures, but I would like to see if anybody has the guts to write something. So I'll give you 10 seconds, right? So why did you join your course? It's a very basic question. Yeah, I'm not having the answer here. I'm not intentionally sharing the answer. I'm asking you guys, why did you join a course? So there's no need for a PPT. I'll tell you why did I join. That's for later. Anyone? Okay, I think people are getting scared and leaving the meeting, so I'll stop asking. Okay, so why did you join your course? So let me tell you why did you join your course. Some might say, I'm into doing some business. Some might say, I want to work for a company. Some might say, maybe I don't like technology, I want to do something else in life. Some people say, I don't like to sweat at work, so I want to get a desk job. someone in BTech or one of those professional courses might say my entrance rank was so and so, and I'm stuck at this branch which I don't like because I was not getting what I wanted. So let's say you're stuck at this course. What next? Right? That doesn't mean okay, life purpose is gone and you're going to start from scratch, right? So that is where who's an expert question has more relevance. So there is this book called Outliers. There is another one called Tipping Point. It's all by the same author called Malcolm Gladwell, right? So he defines, according to him, he's a social scientist. So they come up with theories, maybe right, maybe not right, but they'll come up with their thinking or their opinion in terms of who's an expert. So his opinion is that expert is somebody who has 10,000 hours of practice and blah blah blah. There are other things to it, but he says 10,000 hours of practice is required for an expert. Okay. And he explains that there are factors like, lucky opportunities, cultural legacy, upbringing, timing, and success, which put on top of 10,000 hours of practice will lead to success. Right. But this is something fundamental according to him. So let's, look at an image, right? So I think, these kind of images are highly popular among students, right? Like Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard, Steve Jobs dropped out of college, Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard, right? So the other one is a joke. Anyway, um, the key part is which college they dropped out of. The students who share this image are not studying in IIT Delhi, right? So this is not an excuse for saying something else. And that's probably a joke from my side, but the point I want to make here is they all had 10,000 hour of practice before dropping out. Bill Gates dropped out because he felt there is not much to learn. He is his time is better spent doing this business rather than spend 4 more years in college. So let's take Bill Gates itself. His life, he had wealthy parents. He had in seventh grade access to a computer, right? So his mother's some club bought him access to a mainframe. So he was using computers to make apps in his free time. Let me see, someone pinged. Sure, Abimal, if you have a question you can ask. If it's by mistake, I'll ignore. Working on app, he did independent study. Independent study means you take a semester break and go work somewhere else and come back. Eventually he dropped out, but by that time he had 7 years of programming experience, and in 90s that is very unusual for someone who has 7 years of programming experience. So just think about that pyramid that Gladwell mentions. So obviously he's lucky because he's born in a wealthy family. Cultural legacy, parents are into education, they gave him opportunities. Upbringing, right? So the great upbringing that he had, and timing. We'll come to timing later, but just look at the other things. So what if Bill Gates was born in India in 68? Not 68, 60s. Right? Chances are he'll never get to see a computer. Right? So what if he was in a different time? So for example, if you're born before 52, chances are you'll be too old. By the time computers are coming, he would have been in his 30s. He would have been late. Somebody else would have invented Microsoft or whatever they did. What if he was born after 59? Right? He was born on 55. After 59, right? He'll be too young to find Microsoft. Right? So someone else would have that opportunity to do it first. So it was very important that that computer revolution in the 90s was done by people who was born in similar time frame. Right? So if you are born in 2000, you cannot invent the computer, that's already done. Right? So timing also is a factor. And this is not a Bill Gates only example. The author goes on and talks about Beatles and Mozart and everybody who did 10,000 hours of practice before getting into their profession. So I see students who do startups post education. which is great. I am not going to discourage anybody who's thinking, okay, I'll graduate and make a startup, or I have an idea that I want to implement. That is great, but make sure you have done that 10,000 hours of practice. The startup is not for somebody who want to experiment with life, right? They should be really sure about, I have the skills to do this. So takeaways: you have to really work on something that you're passionate about. Then it's not really work. Work without expecting instant reward. Bill Gates did not make a payroll app to make money, just that he liked computer science and he liked making applications. And there is no shortcut to hard work, right? So even, let's say, Rahman has done the work before becoming famous in Roja. So that's one part. Then second, innovation and disruption is the key part of it, right? So I'll talk about what is disruption initially, and we'll discuss about what are the new innovations of the future. So this is what entrepreneurship was before, right? The conservative companies. So let's say, let's say Reliance, if you're taking India, or if you take, Shell, gas in the sense that, the oil company Shell. These are the conservative Ford Motor Company, right? GM Motor Company, Toyota. Right? These are the conservative companies. So they have a very straightforward goal. They want to make their revenues higher. They want to make their profits higher, right? So that's economics, basic economics. This is what drives a big company. But the new generation companies, let's say, I'm maybe Paytm is not a great example, but Swiggy and Uber and all those companies, they are not focused on revenue and P&L much. They are looking at how can they increase their market cap, because they are continuously selling percentage of the company to raise funds. Maybe you are aware that none of these Swiggy or any of these delivery apps are actually in profit. So how do they survive? They sell a portion of their company, raise funds, they make more customers. If they make more customers, their valuation goes high, right? People think that they are a bigger company. Then they sell one more piece, but this time the piece is smaller, because selling that small piece gets you the same money because you have grown, right? So as a startup, you don't really need to think about, okay, no, I, of course, well and good if you are having doing revenue and P&L in good terms. Even if your profit is not much, or even it is a loss, but if you are having a growth track, people might think, okay, this is great. So for example, I think Facebook was in a loss for a long time, but the investors didn't care, because they had the contacts of 20% of the world. That matters. So there is, you don't have to read this. There is a theory called Peter Principle. Everybody gets promoted if you do well. So let's say I'm an assistant professor. If I do well, in a merit sort of situation, I get promoted to associate. If I don't do well at associate, I may not get promoted to professor. So imagine an organization where everybody is given their due promotion. Somebody is doing at a job, you make him something else. And if he is not good there, you keep him there. So in an ideal situation, everybody must be working at a job that they are really bad at. That is why they are stuck there. Right? So in the company I worked, they were looking at, is somebody working beyond what they have been given? Right? So let's say you want to be a software engineer and you want to move to senior software engineer. You have to do the work of senior software engineer without the designation. Then they'll give you the designation. If you start doing architect's work, then they will recognize you as an architect. Right? So you test and promote, don't promote and test. Now, let's say in IT, this is really, accountability, flexed hours, profit really means stock and bonus and things like that, right? So the companies have really changed. Right now, the employees are part of the company, right? And finding the right people to join your company is half the job, right? You have to really, maybe you have a resume which has a few spelling mistakes, it's obviously great not to have that, but you have to really look beyond that and understand who really loves their job, who is doing their job because they like it rather than, just because you are paying money, right? So these are some of the changes. And going from, the outlook difference, let's go to disruption. I'm not going into the story and things like that, but I just want to talk about disruption as a word, right? So to disrupt really means, to break the normal, right? 10 years back, we were seeing our taxi stands, in our village or municipality or wherever, right? These days those taxi stands have gone away. There is now only, commercial trucks, right? So who's moving cement and metal, staying there. There is auto rickshaws, but there is no taxis anymore. Why? Because somebody disrupted their business. Okay, can someone tell me who disrupted their business? Let me see if people are awake. Who disrupted taxi business? Uber, of course. This is happening everywhere. And what was the reason Uber disrupted? Because taxi drivers were billing for two ways ride. If I have to go to airport and back, sorry, if I have to go to airport, I get charged going to airport and coming back. Whereas you are now being charged for one way trip. They will send him back by giving another ride. Now, this is not just happening in Uber. This is happening in terms of services by Amazon, movies by, let's say, Hotstar, and any of the Netflix platforms that you are subscribing. Food delivery, right? Internet is really getting into every field and creating a startup which is disrupting business. Earlier, we used to go, take the VHS tape, right? Cassette, as we call it, see movies. Then it was CDs. Now you don't do any of these things. In fact, you don't go to theater also, right? The theater is coming to you, right? So this is disruption, right? So there is a competitor who has made a theater complex, and there is no way to compete, right? You can't bring the theater to the house, right? That is being done by an app, and maybe it will win out, maybe it will not, maybe a combination of both will happen, and both will be less in number, yet to be seen. So if you want to learn more about disruption, I would recommend this book called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is probably the less famous brother of Elon Musk. He's not his real brother. I'm just saying that this guy is not as famous, but equally, famous in the startup world, because he was the initial investor in PayPal that Elon Musk found. He's early investor in Twitter, Uber, almost all the things you can think of. This guy is an investor, and he started off making PayPal, and Elon Musk was making X.com, and eventually they merged to form one company because they did not believe in competing against each other. So let's say you want to make a restaurant in Kochi, right? That's where we both are from. So will you try to be the best restaurant in Kochi, or will you try to be the best Bengali restaurant in Kochi? Which is easier? Obviously, the best Bengali restaurant might be easier because there is less competition. But there may be a market for it. If you advertise, not many people have tried out a Bengali, food. They have hilsa fish, which is very tasty, but not much available in Kochi, right? But if you want to start a restaurant and be the best in Kochi, that is very tough. You have to compete against somebody who has lots of experience, probably a great chef, right? So the advice that Peter Thiel gives is, don't try to go make incremental improvements. Somebody is doing great. Let me also do something and compete against him. Take the toughest opponent. Obviously, if he's great, you're competing against the toughest opponent and try to outdo him. Instead, go compete in a field where there's nobody, or create your own field. Maybe the Bengali restaurant in Kerala does not exist. I'm sure there is Punjabi dabas that you're aware of, right? So competition is for losers, is what he says. Don't compete. Do the first one or be the only one. So this is called the PayPal Mafia. I mentioned that Elon and Peter were founders of PayPal, and they all the engineers with them went on to, someone went and made LinkedIn, someone made Yelp, which is similar to Zomato, right? So on and so forth. American companies we are not very aware of. Square is a payment thing. So what are the lessons in disruption? Lesson one: biggest leaps are vertical and not horizontal, right? So what is vertical progress? That is, disrupting the field like anything. For example, Geo did a vertical leap. They did not decide, okay, we'll start as a small player, then we'll grow, eventually become number one. They decided we will invest so much money that we can give internet for free, right? It's a vertical leap. So if you're going to compete against Nokia, you can't just make a better Nokia feature phone. You have to make the iPhone, right? If you want to compete against German and Japanese car companies, you can't just make a stylish looking dependable car. That's already being done by Japanese and German people. So you have to make Tesla, which they don't have, right? So you have to drastically change something and not just do incremental improvements, which is really the horizontal leap, day to day progress, right? So it's really pole vaulting, right? So you don't just jump over the fence, you pole vault across greater heights. And you can only do that by questioning the current normal. It's someone who started Uber is asking the question, why are these guys just standing there and looking around? And whenever a customer comes, they charge so high. Everybody else is working. They are not just working maybe 3 hours a day. They're working 8 hours a day. So why can't these guys also work 8 hours a day? Of course, working 8 hours a day in a car is difficult, but why can't we improve the efficiency? Right? That question was asked by changing assumptions about present, right? So the depth question is, we are doing like that because it has been done like this in the past, right? So people question that, and then you can answer that. So don't just ask improvements. There are people like Amazon Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk who are asking, can we live on the moon? Can we live without cars? Right? So you are asking to make vertical leaps rather than incremental progress. This is an assumption. Monopolies are not bad. They can be good to society, right? Obviously, when you hear monopoly, what you so let's say there is only Colgate toothpaste. That's a monopoly. If that is so, right? Of course, there are other toothpaste around, so it is not a monopoly. But what the author is saying is, monopolies need not be always bad. For example, Google search. It is not a real monopoly. There are other search engines out there. When it started also, there were different search engines out there, right? The MSN search by Microsoft was always there. They tried live.com, they tried bing.com, they tried to rebrand it so many times. But Google is still having a monopoly over search. How? Because they are so far ahead of others, right? So by improving, by being slightly better doesn't count. Slightly better only means that you are also good and somebody else is good. You are never disrupting the field, but you have to be so much better than others that you're really killing the competition. They are only there just because you don't get a lawsuit that you are running a monopoly, right? So you have to be that good, which is really disruption, right? So it is not just inventing a new field. You can really be in the field but be so far ahead of others. So in the long term, people will question monopolies, and there will be competition who will mimic what you do, right? There is obviously Flipkart. Two engineers left Amazon, came to India, started the Amazon of India, which is Flipkart. But then Amazon eventually came in, so there is no monopoly per se. But the goal of the startup was to create a monopoly over e-commerce. Lesson three: the founders don't have a vision. A company can never go from 0 to 1. By 0 to 1, they mean successful, right? So the founder, whoever is starting, should have a vision about his future. or the future of his customers, right? If they don't believe it fully, they will never be able to convince their employees, right? So you have seen most of these disruptors might be slightly weird because they are able to visualize something that is abnormal, right? And for them, they can visualize it as normal, right? So maybe they are a little delusional, which means, they believe in things which don't exist. But then, if you want a grand vision, you need it, right? That is what makes you think big rather than think about small changes that you can make. So, don't try to build another search engine. It's already there. You can only try to be slightly better than Google. Don't try to be, the best fusion restaurant or slightly better than the current one. Try to be something totally different. And do you have 10,000 hours of practice for doing that? Don't work proportional to your pay. This is also something that, the author talks about. The reward is not your daily wage. Reward is not the salary that comes on first of a month. Reward is what you're going to make use of your skills in the future, right? So do something unique. So let's say you are in the academia, let's say you are students, which I assume most of you are. What can you do? So I'll just talk about, I'm not going to go into this in detail, interest of time, right? So all these new technologies are there. So let's say you're a computer scientist, you are somebody in electronics, right? These are technologies that you should be very much aware of, like smart cars. This is like their front bumper, right? So imagine the revolutionary change that has been brought in by this car. It's some other samples of the cars. I'm not going to play the video. It's not without faults, but it's still statistically it is very safe. Right? Augmented reality. You have seen Google Glass and things like that. It's my friend actually. We were working in Google Glass long back when the first version came, and it was a massive failure. Not because of the vision thing, but because the batteries were not good enough at that time to support video. Right? The phone itself was needing 2 times charge for iPhone to properly work. So imagine, having a streaming thing, virtual reality, right? The gaming, you already have an immersive view if you were, things like Oculus, and things like that, but not as common in India. But virtual reality already exists. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Urban Ladder, but they have a mobile app where you can on the camera and drag and drop furniture. Right? So you get to see how your room will look with the furniture. So they don't have a showroom. They only ship the furniture after you try it out on your phone. So they have not just a horizontal incremental leap, they have a vertical leap about their competitors. Right? So all the furniture people should be worried about such things. Right? They have to change their way of business. You can't just say, okay, tomorrow onwards, I'm going to make slightly better quality of furniture to compete against this. I'm gonna skip the videos. AI, this is not a new field. It started 70s, 80s. People were thinking about, how machines will take over, right? So there are a lot of movies regarding that. You're familiar with Terminator, right? There are a lot of concepts under AI, natural language processing, which is understanding human speech, right? The US people might say, play Michael Jackson song. If you have a device which understands only play, it will not work in India because here we say put the song, right? And instead of putting the singer name, we put the film star's name. So obviously the device may not understand. So you have to customize it for India, which is NLP or natural language processing. There is video analytics, which is Amazon Go. I'm not showing videos. It's a online streaming seminar. You can shop without a cashier in US. It is possible, right? So maybe someday, you need not stand in that long queue of, Lulu hypermarket, right? You can just go. The videos are detecting what have you put in your pocket. It will bill you in your mobile app. Machine learning, right? So it is learning what your behavior is. It is learning what the world does. If you just type, I went to a cafe and ordered it will suggest a lot of things. Ordered a coffee or puppy. Obviously, it will say coffee because It has seen what people use in sentences like this, and it's usually coffee or tea or water. There was a video about how to do machine learning. I'm skipping that. Which brings me to the last part, right? So we have seen what is the age we are living in, what is an expert in that field, what is entrepreneurship, what is life like, what is disruption, right? What is needed to bring a culture like that, and what are the technologies of the future. So what should I do? I, as a student, let's say you're graduating in 2 3 years. One, I'm assuming that you're technology students. You have to really embrace technology and take chances. It is not only enough to just pass exams. Everybody is passing exams, only then you will get out of the college. How are you different from the other resume? This is something that people don't realize. I always say, be friends with people who are like 10 years elder to you, because they have seen the mistakes that you'll make at your age. You can now look back, let's say you're in college, I'm assuming, and you look back at your high school. Did you utilize your time well? Right? What could you have done before, that is different? That need not be just technology, just life, right? The current you can really tell this guy, what mattered. Obviously, you have to do your school assignments, but then probably at that time you were very afraid about not doing homework, right? I think about my Rajagiri school days and think about how afraid I was about missing a homework and things like that. But really, it was not doing that homework that mattered. I could have done so many other things in life. I could have developed so many other skills in life which I didn't, right? If you look back 10 years, 10 years back, 10 years past current time, let's say you're in college. I look back to my college days, and there are a lot of things I could have done from a technical standpoint to improve myself, which I didn't, which I paid very bad for. So I did electronics in 2004 from School of Engineering, CUSAT, and I had the opportunity to study in USA, and I got an internship in IBM. I go to internship IBM first day. They're asking me, they're giving me a Linux machine. Right, in 2004, graduate engineer, not even computer science, probably has done nothing in Linux. Right, so they have. I had no idea how to operate it, so I have to Google for how to go to one folder to next folder, because in Windows I just click things and folders pop up. Right, so it was a miserable internship for me, 3 months there in IBM. And at the end, the manager said, I'll never hire you. Right, it was such a disappointment for me. At least I took lessons in terms of ഇങ്ങനെ വിട്ടാ പറ്റില്ല. Right, so I was doing PhD, so I did slightly better. I got an internship in Intel. This time I ensured that I need to learn these things, what are they going to do ahead of time, do my best, and eventually I landed a job. Right, so you have to really embrace technology and work on something like it is your hobby. If you're passionate, great. If you're not passionate, you are in trouble, right? Because you will end up doing that thing, right? So maybe you'll be quite sad about it rest of your life, right? So find something that you like in your area and really be really good at it. I would always suggest, I am a member of IEEE, not in NSS, but these are things that you should get involved. It's not about becoming a leader or you know someone telling that you are a leader, but it will make you a team player. It will help you later in life, and work without expecting instant reward. Maybe you don't need somebody to come and pat you in the back and say great work. The experience of doing that work will help you next time you do that. That is all is needed. You don't need gratification from somebody else. So what can I do? This is like a matrix. Urgency is here. How highly urgent, not so urgent, highly important, not so important. So highly urgent and highly important things people do, right? highly urgent but not so important. Okay, your coursework is important, but it's not like tomorrow is the exam. I would say joining a professional society like NSS or IEEE or something that is available in your college is highly important. But in daily life, it is actually very low important, because you don't have to join it today. You can always do tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes, right? Nobody has urgency about such things. But these are the things that you miss out, and things which are very important, but it is totally not urgent. Let's say you are in computer science. Why can't we make an Android app on the side? It will make you learn Android Studio. It will make you learn how app development works. It's pretty cool to install your own app in your phone. Google allows all that. So can't you do something out of syllabus? Because you have to really stand out in the resume crowd from others, right? So this is something I suggest. Try make an app and put in Play Store, because the act of putting a Play Store or making a website, this is really a computer science answer, but act of doing that really makes you an expert. And can you do a strong project? This doesn't have to be computer science or electronics. Whatever subject you are taking, can you do a strong project? So thank you for listening on my opinion from people that I've read from on innovation and disruption, and how you can get into that, what are the skills needed in that. I thank Paul Burt sir for the invitation. I thank you all for patient listening. Thank you.
Hello, now the session is open for discussion. So anybody, you have any doubts or queries, please. You can just on your mic and speak up, or you can type in the chat box.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I have seen a video of Zuckerberg and the Yuval Noah Harari. They were discussing about the disruption that Facebook brought into. So Yuval Noah Harari was saying the Facebook is putting people into compartments. Uh, say if I am opening up my Facebook account, I am seeing all the rationalists around. So I'll be thinking like, oh, everywhere there is rationalism and all. So how do you view this kind of disruption, bringing people into compartments?
um, you know these kind of apps want you to use the app more, so it is beneficial for them to show people that you like, so that you can keep agreeing with each other. Really, there is another social scientist who spoke about social media, and his example was a village idiot. Okay, so village idiot, according to him, is somebody in your village. Let's say this is 50 years back, and all Malayalam movies we see about our Natagramam, right? There will be always a idiot who will say a lot of things in the chayakada, and nobody will care, because they all know that he's an idiot. There is no need to argue against him, right? There might be such an idiot in every village, right? The problem with social media is now all of these people are talking to the other person in the other village, and that person doesn't know that this guy is the village idiot, and you have to ignore him, right? Which is what is really creating all this debates and arguments, and social media fights and all the trouble, right? So that is the other side of it. Obviously there is compartmentalization based on who you like, because it is in the interest of the company to do that, right? So they are obviously looking at their interest. Facebook has really no obligation to look into your interest. Why should they? They are a profit making enterprise, right? Maybe government has, but they obviously don't. And the other side of it is, it is also better for them for giving megaphones to every other village idiot. because it will encourage more discussion, because people don't know whom to ignore and whom not to respond to on a certain topic, because everyone comes from different backgrounds and they have different worldviews, and that is okay, right? But I think, maybe they compartmentalize, but that is also okay. It is, they are looking at their own benefit. It's a private limited company or whatever it is in USA.
Okay. We have this social media things like products like Instagram and all. We are spending a lot of time into, I mean, the short videos in YouTube and all. So, from the perspective of a user, what is that you have to say to the audience?
Say to who?
Say to the audience. I mean, the users of these products, like college students and all, general public.
No, I think, it is not just college students. I also have social media and I am quite active there also, right? So I may be the village idiot too, right? So I don't have, words of wisdom to advise people on how to use social media. I only have advice in terms of, what about the time after using social media you can do something productive, right? So um, maybe it is a social evil that you're spending a lot of time there, but it is really about how, maybe if not that, I think there is some, I think Srinivasan, the movie director, who said there is a lot of complaints about, violence. People are becoming violent, because they see violence in movies, right? So he was asking, why wasn't there more Gandhis after seeing Gandhi movie, right? So we want to just blame things, right? So wearing helmet is mandatory in movies, but shooting somebody with a gun is okay, right? So I think I'm not for censorship or any of those things. I think people have enough time even after social media, just that they are not passionate about it. People who did that 10,000 hours of practice, like Rahman or Bill Gates or Beatles, they were really passionate about their work. If you're not passionate about their work, you will find an excuse like social media, or if not social media, there'll be something else. It's not social media's fault, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else with any doubts? വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുടെ സൈഡിൽ നിന്ന് ആരെങ്കിലുമൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ സംശയങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാവുന്നതാണ്.
അതെ, ഞാൻ കടിച്ചു പറിക്കൊന്നുമില്ല. Okay, sir, I think we can conclude.
So there is one more.
Sure.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for being part of the program. You have spent much time, and your synonyms that you mentioned in the talk was really wonderful. And I hope students have got a great time sharing your expertise, and also it should be motivational for them. Thank you for being with us for the Impact Lecture Series, which is sponsored by IIC MHRD. Thank you so much, Dr. Bijoy Anthony, sir, and also everyone who participates in the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Feedback link.
Dear students, please fill up the feedback link that is given to you in the chat box, so that you will be getting certificates, e-certificates for the program participation. The link is in the chat box. Link അവിടെ
dear students and teachers, certificate നിങ്ങൾ ആ ഫോം ഫിൽ ചെയ്യുക. സർട്ടിഫിക്കറ്റ് വിൽ ബി ഓട്ടോ ജനറേറ്റഡ്. അത് നിങ്ങളുടെ മെയിലിലേക്ക് വരും.